Alright, at this point we really have all the information we need to do pretty much anything we want to with categorical syllogisms. It's basically just a matter of bringing together what we want. Bringing together what we know. And so what I want to do in these last two videos is show how we could translate ordinary language arguments into categorical syllogisms, at least if they are in fact categorical syllogisms. Remember that the English language is very imprecise, and what we're trying to do is put the English language into something that's precise enough that we can analyze using mood and figure, using Venn diagrams, or using the rules. So, let's start with the problem of getting rid of nouns, alright, or what the book calls reducing terms. In other words, we need to have three different terms, and we need to have them each occur twice. And so sometimes we'll have terms and their opposites, alright, terms and their term complements. And so, we've learned how to do that in the past, right? If A is the term, then non-A is the term complement. And now what we want to do is go through that skill we already know of getting rid of our nouns. And then we'll put these into standard form. Okay, so the process is basically threefold. First, we find the conclusion of the premises, then we get rid of the nouns, and finally we put it in standard form. So let's try one. First, we want to find the conclusion and the premises. Actually, we'll try an example a little bit. And remember those indicator words back on pages 2 and 3 of the book. I told you at the beginning of the semester how incredibly important they'll be, and they still are important because we need to make sure that we have the conclusion before we analyze something. Now, in order to get rid of the nouns, we have to remember this chart, which was from an earlier PowerPoint. And let me go over it really quickly. Okay, so if the noun is in the subject and it's an A or O statement, we really can't do anything with it. If it's in an E or an I statement, we use conversion to get noun into the predicate. And then we go to the next step, which is the noun in the predicate. If the noun is in the predicate, no matter what the statement, we can use inversion. And then finally, if noun is in the subject and the predicate and it's an A or an O, we can use contraposition. With E or I statements, nothing can be done. Okay? And if you'll remember, conversion, we're just flipping the subject and the predicate. Obversion, we change the quality and turn the predicate into its term complement. Therefore, if we have a noun in the predicate, it becomes a non-noun or just the regular letter. And then contraposition, we're switching the subject and predicate and changing both to their term complements. Alright, once we do that, we need to put the syllogism into standard form. The reason we do this at this step is because sometimes the subject and predicate of the conclusion could change as we get rid of these nouns, and so we want to wait till we get rid of the nouns, look at the conclusion, and again, remember, major premise first, minor premise second, then conclusion. Alright, so the major premise is the premise with a predicate, so look at the predicate and make sure that it's on the first statement in our argument. Alright, so let's look at an example here. All aircraft that disintegrate in flight are unsafe planes. Therefore, no poorly maintained aircraft are safe planes because all well-maintained aircraft are aircraft that remain intact in flight. Alright, so what we want to do with this is we want to turn it into a standard form categorical syllogism so that we can analyze it. So the conclusion is no poorly maintained aircraft are safe planes, no PRS. The premise, or one premise, is all aircraft that disintegrate in flight are unsafe planes, all A are non-S. And the other premise is all well-maintained aircraft are aircraft that remain intact in flight, all non-P are non-A. Alright, so notice that we looked at this statement, we determined what the three terms were and noted that some of the terms being used are actually being used in the form of term complements. Okay, so here's the syllogism. All A are non-S, all non-P are non-A, therefore no P are S. Alright, we're okay with the conclusion because it doesn't have any nons in it. Now, we'll consider each premise separately. All A are non-S. Okay, with the non in the predicate, we're going to use obversion. Alright, so with obversion, remember, we take the quality and change it. And so it goes from all to no, and we take the predicate and turn it to its term complement. So non-S becomes S. So the first premise then is no A are S. The second premise is all non-P are non-A. With an A statement and nons in the subject and predicate, we use contraposition. Remember, with contraposition, we're going to switch the subject and predicate and turn each of them into its term complement. So it becomes all A are P. Okay, so now we've gotten rid of those pesky nons and we're ready to look at the entire syllogism. Are you ready? This is very exciting. I wish I had a drum roll. If I had more time, I could actually edit some nice sound effects into this, but pretend you're hearing a drum roll in the background. So the syllogism is no A or S, all A are P, no P or S. Now, we may or may not be done. The last thing that we need to do is ask ourselves the question, is this in standard form? Okay, is the predicate of the conclusion, actually let me see if I can do anything here. Sorry, I have time to play around with this. Yes. Okay, is the predicate of the conclusion in the first term, in the first statement, and it is. Okay, subject to the conclusion, the minor term, is in the second statement. So we know that this is in standard form. This is a nice tool. I'm going to remember to use this in future videos. Okay, again, is this in standard form? Is the predicate of the conclusion in the first premise? Oops, don't mean to do that. Is the predicate of the conclusion in the first premise? Yes, it is. So we should be done, unless the next slide tells me we're not, but I think we're okay. Okay. Actually, the last bullet tells us we're done. Good. So both the PowerPoint slide and I agree that we're done. So this, in summary, is how we get rid of those nons, which is the second to the last part of this process of analyzing categorical syllogisms. Now we need to look at how we're going to take ordinary language arguments that are categorical syllogisms and put them into categorical language so that we can analyze them.